Howdy, folks. This is Jim Awrach on the Hannibal TV, covering tonight for Mr. Hannibal himself. I believe he's on the rapid road to recovery, which we're all thankful and grateful for. And we thank him so much for letting us do this special report of the UFO report on the Hannibal TV. So we have a really exciting episode tonight. This really famous, well-known scientist by the name of Dr. Rhawn Joseph, incredibly intelligent and brilliant, revolutionary work in neurology, neuroscience, biology, and cosmology, which basically means all the universes. Close colleague of Dr. Rudy Schild from Harvard, Smithsonian, and Cambridge. So right now we are going to take a look. Howdy, folks. Jim Awrach here with Dr. Rhawn Joseph. He is the narrator and author of that compilation of phenomenal NASA footage of what I like to refer to just simply as plasmoids with intelligence, some type of consciousness. And from what I could tell, that this is the first to actually have the man himself talk about that. And also he's the primary author, along with his other co-authors of the related several journal papers, along with the well-known Dr. Rudy Schild, the cosmologist we've spoken with before. RJ, again, thank you very much for taking your time to join me. It's very much appreciated.
Thank you.
Did you want to mention any special messages or any personal sacrifices you might have made to get this footage out there, whether it's just touching on it or any level at all, or do you feel comfortable talking about that?
Well, science is, some people say it's conservative. I would say it's more reactionary, where you have the status quo doing everything they can to preserve the status quo. You look back when Einstein came out with his papers, he was attacked viciously. But once he became accepted, and then we had the Copenhagen quantum physics models coming out, Einstein's group attacked them. So you have this continual where new status quo tries to prevent the anything new that might disrupt their position, and that's understandable. And I think it's fair to say that in a way I'm lucky. I'm lucky that NASA put so much effort into lying and covering up and attacking people to try to persuade people not to look at the evidence. What I mean by that is, if NASA had been truthful, if they had actually acted like true scientists, true investigators, and investigated the phenomena, I wouldn't have made the discoveries. So I'm lucky that NASA did all this to try to suppress. So I was able to come in when everybody else is going, don't look, there's nothing there. I even had the people from SETI, which is actually just basically a NASA false flag operation, say, oh, that's just space junk, don't look at it, tricks of the camera. Well, wait a minute, the astronauts, the commanders are saying it's outside my window. Now it's on next window. It's next window. Everybody's getting upset and excited. So where's the tricks of the camera? What's NASA do? Oh, let's change the subject, turn the camera off, talk about something else. Yeah. So science is not really conservative, but reactionary. And in terms of personal sacrifice, if you're an investigator doing research, exploring the unknown, you can expect you're going to run into difficulties. It's just part of the process. So if it was easy, everybody would have been going, hey, look. So because it's hard, guys who are willing to brave the hazards are the ones who make the great discoveries.
Yeah. For the laymen out there that are always, let's say we dig these conspiracy theories or whatever, I always look at it from a very naive standpoint, and I always ask the question to myself, why? Like, why not just say, yeah, it's real? And some people out there think it's just it would be too much for people to handle to say there's a new life form. But you explain in your, well documented compilation of the NASA footage that, hey, there's all sorts of life in the ocean. Makes sense that life would evolve in the thermosphere, which is the verge of outer space. So to me, it's not shocking or scary. I think it's cool. So I'm having a hard time rationalize myself, RJ, about why
the majority of people on this planet who are reasonably educated all believe there's life on other planets, and that there's highly intelligent life has evolved on other planets. And I think the people who are actually scared of that are those who are in power, because it challenges their power. You don't want people praying to aliens, saying, "Come down and help us." And religions too. They're tied in with governments and maintain a status quo. And you don't want people saying, we're the chosen. And but wait a minute, there's a billion other planets out there with life evolving on them. So I think the only people really scared of this are those in power. And most, I think, come out and say, well, there's life on other planets. It's evolved on other planets. They've evolved beyond us on other planets. I think most people would accept that without going into hysteria.
I would, I mean, we've been here for...
People actually already believe that. So what we really have instead is NASA and the status quo doing everything they can to suppress this information, and their motives might be military, it might be religious, it might be, ignorance. You look at 1974, when Gilbert Levin wanted to do his Viking labeled release experiments. They were saying there's no life on Mars, and at NASA meetings they were going, the Bible says there's no life on other planets. There's no life on Mars. But at the same time, they were saying the bottom of the ocean is a desert. There's no life down there either. And it was that same year, 1974, that Alvin, that submersible, went down, discovered, guess what? There's things living where no thing should be able to live. Where you and me would go down there, we'd be pressed smaller than a matchstick. But here's this complex life. There's shrimp, there's tube worms, there's some kind of other creatures, there's crabs crawl under pressures that should crush everything, and yet they're alive down there at the bottom where NASA and the status quo going, it's a desert, there's nothing could live down there. Now we know it's a virtual Garden of Eden at the bottom of the sea. And we look too, like they found diatoms, the Russians did, on the outside of the International Space Station. NASA again, it's this, it's that, don't pay any attention to this. But we know that all these experiments have done, putting algae, putting fungus, putting lichens, live for a year in space, exposed, freezing, hot, bring them back in, they're still alive, they're still reproducing. So we know things can live out there in space. And we also know, you consider a tsunami or a tornado or a hurricane, it lifts things up into the stratosphere, lifts things up into higher space, things get thrown into space. Well, there's going to be a lot of bacteria, there's going to be algae, there's going to be lichens, there's going to be all this stuff, and a lot of it's going to live in space. What happens when it lands on another planet? What happens if it lands on Mars? Well, we know Mars has oxygen. Where's the oxygen come from? Photosynthesis. It's replenished. Oxygen has a 10-year half cycle. It's constantly blown into space, but for 4 billion years, there's been oxygen on Mars. What's producing it? Well, it's got to be photosynthesis. What I'm saying is that life, even if it began just on Earth, it would be thrown into space, it would land on other planets, on planets where, if it could live at the bottom of the ocean, it could live on Mars, it could live on Venus. There was just so much, again, science is reactionary. People have their status quo and they want to maintain it. What happens if suddenly we're saying, well, there is life on Mars? Well, 1 billion papers have been published, are suddenly irrelevant. There go all these careers.
Oh, I see.
So, yes. So
funding and money, would you say, RJ? Is that's a concern? Some people.
funding and the money is NASA. So
Oh, I see.
who has their people on the journals? NASA, which is a violation of the First Amendment. Yeah, you could look at International Journal of Astrobiology. Well, there's all these NASA people in it. Well, wait a minute. Government's not. What if the New York Times had people from the Defense Department working in the editorial office? We go, well, that's not. But it's a journal called Astrobiology. Well, there's all these NASA people. Well, what's going on? Why are all these NASA people? Not one of them who has made a major scientific discovery are in there acting as censors, making sure this stuff doesn't get published. Unfortunately, the media looks at NASA as, a god. So NASA, there's no, Mars is a sterile environment. Nothing could live there. Well, how do you know if you don't investigate? Well, we don't need to investigate because there's no life. So we don't look for it. Well, we know there's no life, so we don't look for it. These people who are finding it, well, they're wrong because we know there's no life there. Well, how do you know? Well, that's why we don't look for it. I mean, that's their basic. NASA's come out, Gil Levin did his Viking labeled release. There was also the oxygen experiment, both of which showed that there's biological activity. Right away, NASA comes, it's false positives. Well, wait a minute, then why don't they do more life experiments? They never did again. Why? Well, NASA, it costs too much money. New York Times did a study and goes, no, a few $1,000s you could do these experiments. Oh, it would cost too much. Well, somebody's lying, aren't they? Why don't they put life detection on the rovers? What's the number one question you should be asking about Mars? Is there life? But it's the question NASA won't ask. They don't want it asked. And if anybody asks it, they attack that person. So, but I'll go back to saying this, which is if NASA wasn't doing all these dirty tricks, a guy like me wouldn't have been able to come along and make the major discoveries. And if I live long enough, according to Google AI, if I live long enough and the discoveries are confirmed, well, then I get my Nobel Prize. But all I got to say again on that is thank you, NASA, for lying so much about all this, because I got to come in and look because nobody else was looking.
You had requested actually Mars footage, if I remember correctly, through the Freedom of Information Act, and instead
you didn't give it to me.
Okay.
They refused, yeah. And what's the point of taking NASA to court?
Okay.
I'm not going to win on that, but yeah, I asked for. They have actual. Earlier they did video, but they don't release any of it. Yeah, one of the, I forget, I'm bad on names. Maybe it was the Spirit, I forget which one, but they actually have did video recording. I saw some freeze frames, and there's things that look like they're crawling and moving. Well, of course they deleted that. Yeah, I asked for that. NASA wouldn't give it. I asked for other footage that they're hiding and won't put online. They refused to provide it. By law, they're supposed to. But what am I supposed to do about that? I'm just me. So, with the most recent one on Jezero crater, I forget the name of their Perseverance or that rover, NASA initially announced that they weren't going to release any photographs from that. Yeah, and then there was all this uproar, and they go, okay, well, we'll let you see some of it after all. You look back on what happened with all the film footage, photographs from the dark side of the moon. NASA destroyed that. Why? Well, they go, other people have copies. What? Why would you destroy all that?
Suspicious, to put it diplomatically.
Well, you got people who are doing, again, I knew Gil Levin, and he talked about the meetings and all the opposition there was to him, including those experiments, and how much NASA tried to sabotage, strip the experiments down, didn't want them on the Viking, and it was only because Congress had provided funding and said, you got to do it. NASA went along with it. Find evidence of biological activity, NASA go, it's just false positive. Just false positive, ignore it. I mean, he goes, okay.
Something I was curious about, when you happened across the NASA footage that you compiled and narrated, that you could very well win a Nobel Prize for discovering NHI, or at least revealing it to the public. I kind of wonder, do you think that somebody over there during the FOIA wanted you to get this, so they somehow said, "Oh, I want this to get to Dr. Joseph," and but my understanding is you were trying to get information on Mars, but instead you got this, which in a lot of ways is really good.
Well, let me put it this way: the average person.
Okay.
Yes. Who knows? Somebody. Oh, he wants this stuff, so we'll just send it to him. And talk about conspiracy theories. There's no conspiracy theory here. There's no theory here. There is the evidence. It's not a conspiracy. Here's the evidence. Here you see these things flying around, changing directions, splitting into different parts, one merging with another, setting bridges between them, one of them going this way and then that way, and interacting and leaving a stream of stuff behind it, and which has got to be miles in length. There's no conspiracy. There's no theory. There's the evidence. So I think you were talking earlier before we started recording about why isn't this all in the news? Well,
Yeah.
There's a message out there is don't believe your own eyes, believe NASA. They did these experiments in the 1950s. I think I mentioned this before, where looking at peer pressure, where they would show lines different length. 4 of the people in the panel knew they were supposed to lie. 1 person didn't know. So they asked her, which is the shortest one? Well, the 4 people would lie, and the 1 person didn't know. He's like, and he'd go along with it. Peer pressure can even change your ability to perceive what's right in front of you. So, and we have an entire, it's not just peer, it's a corporate NASA, which is this massive, maybe there was life on Mars billions of years ago, maybe, but we don't think so. We haven't found anything yet because we're not looking. So when you have that constant bombarding, there's no life out there, no life on Mars, it's just space junk, don't believe your eyes. Put it this way, North Korea, I understand that the majority of the population believe that their great leader can read their minds, so they got to be careful.
Wow.
What I'm talking about is peer pressure is people are told to believe and then they start to believe. And the bigger the lie, the more likely they're to believe it. It all goes back to, it's not a conspiracy. There is the evidence. There is the film footage. There's the pictures from Mars. They're NASA's official photos. We identify where they come from. There's no conspiracy, no hoax. Here's the evidence. You can believe your own eyes, or you can believe NASA. I want to talk about a different issue here, which is related to the plasmoids.
Yes.
Which is that, just like you look at the bottom of the ocean and there's things living down there that you think could not possibly live, we got to figure there's planets out there who are probably Earth-like, which were formed billions of years before Earth became a twinkle in God's eye. And I'm not promoting religion by saying that, but if light evolved on some of those planets, they might have reached our technological capabilities billions of years before this planet was formed.
Sure.
People ask, well, why don't we see the spacecraft, landing in Washington, D.C.? Well, maybe they're like good anthropologists. They see no reason to disturb the population. Or we're thinking things so primitive that, they got to come in a spacecraft. Why? Maybe they don't. Maybe their technologies, they can be watching us right now on channel 237.
Sure.
What's going on right now? They don't need to come here. Or they could have stealth technologies that we couldn't possibly detect their craft. You look back to so-called ancient Greek myths, and they talk about these gods that came down and would take sides and fight, and that's just a myth. Well, we're told Troy was a myth, but it's not. So what I'm trying to say is maybe back then they weren't, whoever they are out there, weren't so concerned about being observed, whereas now they are. We don't know. My point of all this is that they could have technologies that we can't even conceive of.
Oh, sure.
You consider where we are right now, the technological advances made in the last 100 years. What, 150 years ago, they're riding horse and buggy, and where we are right now? You say, where we are right now, what about 100 years from now? What about 1,000 years from now? What about 1,000,000 years from now? What about 1,000,000,000 years from now? Well, they might have technologically, genetically evolved their own. They might be like gods, and we might be like reptiles in comparison. What I'm saying is that if you consider if technology advances, we don't destroy ourselves.
Yeah.
Evolution progresses. People can genetically engineer their own. 1,000,000,000 years from now, what about those planets that were formed 4, 5, 6 billion years before ours? And life might have evolved on those and reached our capability 4 or 5 billion years ago. What might they be capable of now? Well, we can't conceive. We can't conceive, but that's not a conspiracy theory either. It's a basic science. It's that there must be out there, and why wouldn't they be observing us? On the other hand, there might be so many Earths that we're just like, just another Earth. Nothing interesting about this one. It's just, there's like 1,000,000 other ones just like this. So pass by.
When people have sightings or one way or another, there's, we have what we suspect to be a UAP or UFO, whatever. I spoke with your colleague, Dr. Rudy Schild, and his thought is a lot of this is done through, and you probably already know what I'm going to say, but a lot of this is done through, according to Dr. Schild, quantum entanglement, where these entities are trying to establish a connection with the human being, and some human beings are more sensitive or receptive than others for some reason. And these entities, apparitions, or craft will form, for example, in the shape of a flying saucer or in the shape of an entity or being, whatever it feels or believes the human being will most easily recognize. And it could do that from the other end of the universe or from a different universe. Are you referring to that when you say they don't need craft, or are you referring to something different?
Thousands, probably several thousand years ago, in the Vedas, Hindu, they talked about that there's multiple worlds, multiple universes. All these universes in turn have multiple worlds. And sufficiently technologically advanced, why couldn't something from one universe come visit this universe? I mean, if they're 1,000,000,000 years ahead of us, why wouldn't they be able to do that? Well, they probably would. Back to what you're talking about, the sensitivity. You consider some people are great musicians. Some people are great athletes. Some people, great pianist. Another person doesn't have that ability. Some people are great mathematicians. Point is, the brain is, different people have different abilities. So it's certainly a likelihood that some people would be sensitive and perceive things that most people can't perceive. And maybe accidentally tuning into somebody, some extraterrestrials' thought patterns or brain waves or TV channel and go, oh, what's this? If you understand what I'm saying, it's like you think about old-fashioned TV and you're tuning it. Suddenly, you're in New York and you're picking up Hong Kong. Whoa, what's that? And then it disappears, right? Does that mean Hong Kong didn't exist? No, it means somehow you picked up the signal temporarily and then it disappeared. You lost it. Well, people's brain could be the same way. So if some people say they're sensitive to that they're perceiving, well, I think if you're a real scientist, you don't go, oh, ha, ha, ha. If you're interested, you should investigate. I mean, what is research? Research means look again, look again, look again. I can only speculate about people who have ability to perceive things that I can't perceive. I wouldn't say it's impossible. I would say scientifically, we have to consider that it is possible, and maybe true scientists would investigate. Somebody who's not a scientist would go, ha, 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 we're not going to look. Then they're not a researcher, are they?
I understand why we would expect there would be life on Mars, or why there were visitors. What exactly did you come across that led you to suspect, oh, something's going on there? I think you saw some sort of objects or something, and that you kind of said, oh, I want to. Yeah.
Well, what happened, that was back in 2005, 2006. NASA comes out and started putting the photographs of specimens they photographed in Meridian Platum. I forget the exact crater. So I'm looking at the photographs. This is in 2006, and thinking, well, those look like mushrooms. Looks like thousands of mushrooms. I mean, they grow up, they have a stem, they have a little bulb on top of them, and you see hundreds all over these rocks growing up. And there's nothing like that on Earth except for mushrooms growing out. So I'm looking at that going, how come nobody else is noticing this? I mean, there's the photographs, right? Why aren't people noticing this? And it makes you doubt your own, again, it's peer pressure. So I'm thinking, well, how come they're not announcing? And then they come and go, oh, it's hematite. What? Wait a minute. Hematite doesn't have a stem, doesn't have a bulb, doesn't come in multiple colors, because at first NASA admitted that they had different colors. I mean, blue, red, orange, different colors. Well, that sounds like pigments for photosynthesis. We know that oxygen's continually replenished on Mars. Where does it come from? Well, it's got to be a biological source. There is no other source. So here we see these lichen-like mushroom things. We see green things that look like algae growing. We see what looks like lichens growing. We know that algae, lichens produce oxygen. Well, anyway, so I'm looking at that in 2006, and I'm puzzled too, which is, well, NASA's the god, and how come nobody's announcing this? Maybe my own perceptions are wrong. Just like the guy who's, in the experiment, there's 5 people going, oh, the bigger line is the smallest. And the one guy goes, well, they must be right. Well, that started that. But then I kept looking. Research, right? Research. Keep looking. Go, well, here's these things. look like tube worms. Well, these look like fossils. Well, these look like, wait a minute, maybe NASA's wrong. And then realize they are wrong. Those really are. And then when you accept it, you go, oh, there's life everywhere on this planet. And you touched on something I want to go back to before I forget. You talked about giants. What about little planets? When McKay and his group back in 1996 presented those what looked like little microbacteria. Okay, well, at first it's accepted, and then NASA put all this funding into it to destroy their reputation, including somebody going through the moon rocks and finding something even smaller that looked like bacteria. Said, well, therefore it can't be real. But wait a minute. What if big planets have big people or big things evolve, but little planets have little things that evolve? Well, Mars is what, 1/3 the size? Moon? What I'm trying to say is they don't have to be giant. Maybe they could be microscopic.
That's interesting.
We just don't know. And because nobody out there is doing the research, and well, I think just because you find something that looks too small and you say, well, on Earth, well, wait a minute, this is a smaller planet. The moon's smaller. Maybe things evolve smaller on smaller bodies. We don't know. Could they be giants? Well, we don't know.
Jim, Jim, I think you're muted.
Okay, how about now?
I can hear you now.
Excellent. So Jill, as a field investigator, I had the honor of looking at one of Ill Square's cases close up, and that was a long time ago. And since then, I got your folks' permission to discuss it. We had small footage on Hannibal TV. We'll have lots of footage later, but so I do know that you're a legitimate experiencer and also somewhat of a ufologist and researcher. So I guess my question, just to epitomize how different people are treated. How have you been treated, for example, in your, let's say, close circle of friends and fellow ufologists? And do you see any difference in society outside of that community? The way you're treated, Jill.
Um, yeah, so like I don't tell too many like people in my life about it just to keep, them sane and and whatever. But like I have tried to talk to like my family about it and they're like, "Yeah, okay." My mom thinks I'm like paranoid or something,
Yeah,
and I'm like, "Okay." I
yeah,
have sources.
sure. But you know for a fact it's real, and believe it or not, I know that's real. But I'm not going to do any spoilers to folks. But I'll talk as a personal witness. While I was a field investigator, I was like, holy crap, this stuff is real. So we've got videos. That's another episode with the good grace of the Almighty Hannibal himself. One thing I would like to say, and then we're going to get back to Dr. Joseph, is what really epitomizes everything is you'll notice you've got let's say a locally known ufologist and experimenter with her own logs, experiments, observations, and her own set of cases. And she stays close knit within the community. Has a very close, supportive group of friends. Thankfully, I'm one of those, and we have a nice circle of ufologists. And she has also met the wonderful Dr. Rudy Schild. you'll notice you get outside the community and look what happens to Dr. Joseph. And that's what we're going to talk about right now. Okay, folks, thanks so much for staying with us. And here we go. And notice how people treated Dr. Joseph. Again, a brilliant man. And it doesn't hurt to have an open mind, even if you disagree with someone and you think they're a little, at least listen to them. But here we'll go.
Then we're just speculating. But going back to Mars, so I'm going through all the footage and I see what looks like crash sites. And I see what looks like bones. Well, why didn't NASA take more photos of the bones? It's like they uncovered them. They go, oh, we're going to move the camera. We're going to go somewhere else. So you see bones, what look like bones. You see what look like skulls. Okay, could be an illusion. But if you're a real scientist, you would go investigate. You would go look at it. You wouldn't move the rover. You would go look at it somewhere.
Oh, sure.
And they didn't do that. Somehow they turned the camera off and moved the rovers. How do they do that? How do they do that with the camera off? Or did they just erase? We don't know. But we know you can't be moving the rover around blind. But they would turn the camera off so we know there's no more film. But you start looking, and then I'm looking at, and it's all located in a certain location. What looks like a skull, here's another one, here's some bones, here's what looks like a crash site. And then something that many people observe, there's this thing, and it might be about this size. I don't know. But it looks like a man or humanoid laying on a cushion. You see fingers, you see legs, you see eyes, you see a mouth thing, you see like a skull, and it's laying on this like cushion thing. Well, I'm looking at that going, well, like a lot of people go, well, that looks like a little humanoid. Sure, it could be an illusion, but gosh, it's got legs, it's got toes, it's got hands, it's got fingers, it's got mouth, it's got eyes.
Yeah.
That's just one, but located not too far away, what looks like another crash site with three, four identical pod-like things with human-like shapes, humanoid-type shapes inside them. It goes back again to technologies we may not understand, life that could evolve in ways that we don't understand. When you start saying things like look like crash sites, bones, skulls, pod-like things with things laying on top of it. I published this, me and Rudy, we published this evidence, the photos, and it showed on the map how it's all closely related to each other. Is it really a crash site? Are those really humanoids? I don't know. All I know is, and I was attacked for even publishing it. I mean, you shouldn't be publishing that. Well, why not? Why not tell people, here, take a look?
Were you attacked by your peers at other universities or the?
Well, like at ResearchGate, there are people writing, you shouldn't be, you shouldn't be publishing this, and you shouldn't look, right? You shouldn't look at this. It's wrong to look. You're bad to look at.
Right.
Don't look.
Right.
Show this to other people. If I was in charge of NASA, I wouldn't be moving the rovers. We'd be going right there, taking photos, different angles, moving things around, digging around, but not now. Oh, don't look, wrong to look.
Do you think there's any possibility that they purposely explored that area and maybe there's more footage, but they made it look as if they turned the rover away, or you don't think that's what happened?
I believe that. I believe that they definitely continue. There's a 20-second delay. Okay, so they can look at it first and decide if they're looking. I think a lot of things escapes them, and so it gets published, shows up on their website.
I'm curious.
Oh yeah, is there more film footage? Oh, I'm sure of it. They didn't just. They can't be that. I mean, they could be. I mean, you look at like the Inquisition, where they would just burn the books. right? Or, go into the Aztec and just destroy, not look at it. Yeah. It's evil to look at. So, and they're told, all we know is, in Congress, U.S. Congress, NASA has the reputation as never a straight answer.
Yeah.
NASA, never a straight answer, that you can't believe what these guys are telling you. So it would seem to me that, okay, here's the rover, takes photos of what looks like bones because they actually accidentally ran over this area and uncovered these things. And then suddenly the rover's somewhere else. They had to have visual. They wouldn't just move it blind. It's too dangerous. Expensive equipment. They wouldn't just move it blind. But suddenly we have, here it's over here. Well, where's the photographs of them? So they have to have it. If they destroyed it, if they put it somewhere else, don't know. But I know this, you can't trust NASA. NASA is anti-science. They're the enemy of science. And you look in the field of biology, there's not one person at NASA that's made any kind of significant discovery in the field of biology, yet they're the experts. They're on the editorial boards. Guys like me aren't. They keep people like me out. I've got the 50-year history, making major discoveries, starting in neuroscience, neuroplasticity in the primate brain, thought to be impossible. Now we know it's common wisdom, early environmental influences. I pioneered all that work as well. Hormonal basis of sex differences. Well, this was rats, but I showed you could change by manipulating the hormones early in development. Major discoveries, and now but the thing is, I have a history. I don't, you ask about the personal, I just keep going back to that. Thank you, NASA, for lying to everybody, because I got to go make the great discoveries. Eventually they'll be confirmed. And I feel happy with that, knowing I just hope I'm still alive when it happens. I had great hope for Musk saying he's going to Mars. Now he's not going to Mars anymore.
I don't get that.
Honey, NASA, he's got his man in at NASA. He put his man in there, charge.
Yeah.
He's got a lot of contracts with government. You don't want to be stepping on toes. You're saying,
I see.
Yeah. Don't look. You're going to Mars. No, don't.
I see.
Back in the Apollo, they made it to Mars. Webb was the director of NASA at the time. Put all these plans. We're going to go to Mars next. What happened? They killed the space program. They just, no more. So the next step was to go to Moon. Now we're going to go to Mars. And
are you referring to when Bush Jr. Announced that
that was the next stab in the heart.
Okay.
What I'm saying is, when James Webb was the director of NASA, they had plans. They were already planning Moon, Mars. That was already on the books. It was already being planned, and that was all killed. And they stopped sending people to the moon. The next step of killing was selling off most of the launch pads to private parties for pennies on the dollar, and then killing the space shuttles, and there it went.
Yeah.
So now we have Jeff Bezos and Musk and other parties, and what are they all competing for? Big dollars to go to the moon.
Yeah. Do you have any? Go ahead. I'm sorry, RJ.
On the positive.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that there's life on the moon. Make that clear. I'm not saying there's life on the moon, but I would not be surprised if they dug down and found there's bacteria down there below the surface, maybe even on the surface. Got to look. Research. Oh, can't do that.
Does that kind of touch on in some of your papers with Rudy, how you talk about things like there could be RNA that collects and somehow gets into these plasmoids. Does that sound familiar?
Yeah, what all the research, independent of NASA, tells us that all the nucleotides are out there in space.
Mm.
Then you have creatures, bugs, seeds, plants being propelled into space. Then you have the plasmoids. You have meteors, which have different nucleotides, as we know, inside. They shatter pieces everywhere. Well, it gets incorporated into the plasmoid. Little bug things, little creatures get incorporated into the plasmoid. So here you have things which actually have a genome inside the plasmoid. Then you have all the elements. You have these electromagnetic entities. They're being exposed to all these electromagnetic waves and energy. And so you have all these people on Earth, creating laboratories. We're trying to create life in a laboratory. Well, the plasmoid itself could be a living laboratory that assembles and assimilates. And next thing you know, it's got a genome. There's been enough research showing that there are helical structures inside these plasmas, and like a crystal genome. So if it has all the elements necessary, we don't know what the lifespan is of one of these things. Maybe they've been around 100 years, a few years, a billion years. We don't know. But why couldn't it cook up all the necessary elements and assimilates them, and it has its own genome? And it doesn't have to be like the genomes of creatures on Earth, but everything necessary is out there. And so why couldn't they have a genome? We see they have well, we don't know. We don't know. I don't know. All we can do is look at the photos and see, voids inside and see what looks like structures inside, but we don't know. All we can do is speculate.
Would you?
So I'm not saying they have a genome. I'm not saying they have DNA, but I'm saying they certainly can incorporate everything necessary.
But you show lots of good pictures, like, for example, you see the plasmoids attracted to the space shuttle's tether, and then to the right you show a plankton with microscopic organisms.
It's behaving very similar. So how intelligent, but let's consider again the bottom of the sea. There's not just one species, a lot of different species down there interacting. You look at we're calling them plasmoids. That's just the name we're using. We're not really sure, but we know that different behaviors. Talking about the plasmoids, that there might be different types of species, because we see some act like hunters, that they'll change direction, they pierce. Some seem to just float and stay, like Carl Sagan referred to on Jupiter, speculating that there might be hunters, there might be grazers, there might be floaters. Well, we see that there might be grazers who are moving slowly around. There's the hunters that go after them. There's the floaters that just seem to stay in one position and not move. Then you see those that come from off camera towards thunderstorms, lightning storms, slow down, change directions, go down deep into them. Obviously, those aren't meteors. And then you'll see them come back up out again. So how many meteors go down and pop back up again?
Right.
So, So what I'm saying is, you look in the thermosphere, it might be like the bottom of the sea, is that you might have different types of plasmoids, and maybe not all the same, because they definitely, we've plotted this out, we've statistically analyzed, and we see that there are different types of behaviors taking place up there. Unfortunately, all we have is that little bit of footage that NASA did not erase and did not destroy. So we're looking at very little footage, and then we got NASA puts all that visual noise on top of it.
Yeah.
Let me, you go Google AI, which is like a NASA mouthpiece, just gives NASA's position. All the noise, you see those layers of noise. The explanation is, because it's outside, it's dark outside. Well, that doesn't make any sense because sometimes you see it's crystal clear.
Yeah.
I mean, like working on the shuttle is crystal clear. How about inside at night? Well, the beam's still got to go outside.
Yeah.
So we know that they're adding the noise after it's received, after the 20-second delay, and we know they turn the camera off. We know that they move the camera. We know that they try to change the subject. There's
they zoom out like you explained. They change the focus like you explained.
Move the camera, just turn it off. I mean, as far as we know, they just turn it off. And again, if they were true scientists, if they were true investigators, you wouldn't be turning the camera off. You would be investigating. You would be doing research, not closing your eyes. Research, searching. NASA, no, I'll turn the camera off. It's just an illusion, just a trick of the camera. And we're just adding all this noise because you don't need to see it. So that's the most frustrating. You talk about the personal aspect. The frustrating is you're dealing with these people who are actually interfering with scientific progress, who are actually interfering with the scientific. If you had true scientists, true investigators, all the amazing discoveries that could be made if they were actually doing the research, if they would actually look, but they don't. And that's the real sad part is that these people who are preventing scientific progress and trying to keep us ignorant. And that's the sad part of all of this. But so that's the only personal part about it that affects me, is just thinking how unfortunate you have these people in charge and preventing the rest of us from actually investigating, actually doing research, actually making the great discoveries. I mean, they have all the tools, but they refuse to use them. Again, like sending these rovers to Mars and not putting life detection equipment on it and lying about, it's too expensive. And the New York Times says, no, it's not. Not that expensive. What's the most important question? Is there life on Mars? Why don't they want to ask that question? That's the sad part about it all. Trying to keep the rest of us ignorant.
Does that fall under the category of Machiavellian?
No, I wouldn't say that. I think it's a status quo again, it's people afraid of losing power, and there's religious element, the military element, there's the ignorant element. You have these ignorant people in charge and who might be convinced there's nothing there.
I see.
So we're going to just turn the camera off. There's nothing there. There's no reason to search for life because there's no life there. Why search for it when there's no life? I mean, that's the reason. So there's no reason to put any equipment on there to go look because there is no life. How do we know? The Bible tells us. That's actually a quote from Gil Levin in meetings with trying to include the labeled release experiment. Big uproar at the NASA meeting. The Bible says. Actually, the Bible doesn't say that. Let's make that clearer. I mean, if you want to take it from a biblical perspective, you look at that beautiful first chapter of Genesis. The very first chapter, so poetic, so beautiful. And the Spirit of God hovered over the waters. Well, what is the Spirit of God? I would say the Spirit of God would be life. And if God is everywhere, then life should be everywhere. Why should we believe that of all the countless worlds and universes and planets, that he just picked one little planet and just put life on that and nowhere else. It'd be like creating a symphony with just having one violin or just one horn. I mean, a symphony has, but we're supposed to believe that, there's so much that could, if we had real scientists in charge, all the amazing discoveries that could be made.
That's great though that you had the nads to just push it through and get it published though. I mean it's making its way out there.
If I had family, if I had to worry about money, and they went after my money, they did. But if I had family and if I had to worry about other family members, I probably wouldn't have been willing to go this direction because it could hurt other people. But I'm just me. So just a lone researcher out there. But they did. They interfered with my income. They interfered with contracts. They interfered with publishing. Amazon owes me a whole lot of money. Just withheld it. Yeah, just withheld it.
Really?
Cut it off. Yeah. Yeah, well, they have ways of going after people. I mean, that's I took all that to, let's not go into that, but I did take it to court, and you're dealing with these judges who, that's a whole nother world.
Wow.
So yeah, I've had that interference. I mean, they go after my income. Yeah. But I have more money. I invested wisely.
Oh, that's good. God bless for that.
Yeah, I just want to make it clear here, which is, you asked about the personal, is that they didn't ruin my life. They interfered, but that's the way it is. And my only feeling of distress is all the discoveries that could be made, but you have these people in the way. And I just think there's so many amazing things to be discovered, but you have these people in the way preventing it. And that's the real, it's like, I don't know how to use a proper analogy, but it's like somebody produces a great movie, but you're not allowed to see it. And so, all this stuff we could discover, we could look at, but we have these people who won't allow it. And that's the only distressing is, gosh, we know so little. All the wondrous things that are out there that would like to know about this great adventure.
How do you feel about the way things are going with the U.S. with its disclosure efforts on Capitol Hill, with people pushing for all that, and we've got people coming out, and supposedly Bob Lazar is going to come out again, and we've had other people that testified. Do you feel that?
You notice they didn't invite me. Who's the guy who's actually produced the films and shows the evidence? I'm the one guy they don't invite. Why is that? Wouldn't it make sense? I mean, I got the film footage, I got the photos, I've got the freeze frames. But I'm the one guy who they don't want to talk to. Why is that? That's okay.
And how would you feel if
I don't want to talk to you either.
How would you feel if I reached out to them and kind of reminded them, hey, here's legitimate NASA footage, and here's Dr. Joseph who documented it all and published it, and I kind of reminded the people that are running the disclosure effort. Would you be for or against that, or neutral?
No, I research, keep looking, right? I don't say close your eyes to anything.
Yeah. So, but you think that the powers that be outside of, let's call it the Good Old Boys network that did those things to you, you feel that the folks in the disclosure effort would already know about this since you've got
Of course they would. How could they not? It's okay with me. They don't want to talk to me. That's fine. Really, I'm fine with that.
Well, I'll tell you,
I watched one of those hearings.
Yeah.
Now the first one with the Navy pilots, I thought that was really fascinating, and some of that, and we've only seen. I mean, they won't release most of the film footage, right? Why? Why don't they release it? Well, because they don't want us to see, don't want us to look. So we know that there's really powerful stuff that they won't let out, won't let people see. But on the one, you see this craft that they're filming actually changing shape. I mean, it sends chills up my spine to watch it. And it's actually changing shape, changing orientation. And so I thought all that, the initial hearings were really fascinating and really revealing. But then you had all these, quote, experts coming out of the woodwork going, oh, it's not true. It's, there's psychological problems. And
oh, right.
Yeah, and don't believe that, it's.
Yeah, the stigma sabotage again. Yeah.
Yeah, it just came right. They're lying. It's untrue. It's everything you can to discredit, and then the media goes along with it. Subsequent hearing, they showed some kind of film footage of a missile going through what might be a balloon. It didn't look to me like that balloon thing was actually a UFO. It looked to me like it was some kind of balloon thing, and didn't look like anything significant. But they're holding a hearing on it, and the hearing was basically one congresswoman asking the four panelists, "Do you think we should be worried?" Yes. Next person. Yes. Next person. Yes. But no discussion. Good thing they didn't invite me, because I would go, "That's not a UFO. It looks like a balloon."
Right. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, my team and I, we approach all this, I think, like true scientists. We see things that we think might be, and we look more, do research, and we decide, no, that's not real. That might be a figment. That might be a camera trick. We let it go. Russian investigators published something like 30 years ago what they thought was like a lizard-like thing on the surface of Mars. Now, I've seen what looks like mushrooms growing on Mars. So I'm not Mars, on Venus, like a lizard-like thing. I see mushrooms. I believe the mushrooms are real, but we wondered about the lizard-like thing. And we did all this photographic analysis of it and filters, and decided, no, it's just a figment. It's just trick. The camera angles, and it's actually part of the soil. So we're willing to say, this ain't real. This is real. I mean, true believers would go, "Oh, that's real too." No, if we don't find it, we say it's not real. And we don't publish it. So we're willing to do research, keep looking. I mean, that's the secret.
But then you were talking about the 4 layers of noise. How did you determine so-called layers, and that there were 4 of them? Was that some sort of processing that you did to figure that out?
Well, first off, you see the noise. I mean, you could see all this cloudy type stuff, and
I saw the cloudy stuff. Yes,
and it should be crystal clear, like any other television transmission. It should be crystal clear. I mean, how many satellites do we have up there where they, right? And they beam it right back down. And they don't have noise, right?
Oh,
okay. So just NASA footage has noise. So that's,
you're right. Yeah, I saw that cloudy stuff, and I saw it, and I didn't quite understand it. But that's what you're referring to.
The first layer, no. But then when you do the freeze frames, then you see, well, it looks like there's some red in there. Well, it looks like there's some green in there. It looks like there's some blue in there. I mean, looking at the freeze frames and you put it under filters. The thing is, when you're looking at grayscales can still give you information about color. Okay, I mean, so because the grayscales have in themselves are different wavelengths that are embedded even in the black and white. So you can use filters, and suddenly there you see, well, there's the green, well, there's the red, there's the, and there's stripe. So you see, they really put the layers on, you know, not just white noise. We're going to add all this other crap there to make sure you don't see. Then they're turning the camera off. Then they have the 20-second delay. So, I mean, it's just right there. I'll just go back again to say, we have all these satellites, television broadcasts. They don't have all that noise. Why would just NASA footage have? So NASA, oh, you know, because of this, that you're lying. You're lying to us. Simple as that. Why aren't television broadcasts have all this noise? They're lying to us.
To speak with you for another sec, but I'll just, for the sake of the recording, I'll wrap that part up and just say, Dr. R.J. Joseph, sincerely thank you very much for all of your time, and it's very enjoyable interview, and I'm proud to say that after we go through the edit, we'll be releasing this so folks can hear from the man himself who put this great footage out there along with those publications. Thank you so much.
And I want to thank again NASA for lying to everybody, because I would not have been able to make these discoveries if they told the truth. Thank you, NASA.
I'm muted. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah.
How many kicks in the balls did Dr. Rhawn Gabriel Joseph give them? And what's interesting is the fact that you know, not only is he a pioneer, but you know, yet another one in the ranks of great scientists, engineers, former servicemen, servicewomen, government officials, and so forth, that say there's something to it. I always come from the perspective of science and engineering, and I just say, if I look at something and I say it looks legit, I always say, well, I'm in it for the science and engineering, and I think there's something to it. My colleagues out there that know that I'm into this type of thing, sometimes they agree, sometimes they disagree, but at least they accept me for who I am when I'm coming from that aspect. You know, so I'm not wearing a tin foil on my head, but you'll notice that Dr. Joseph is not either. And neither is either one of our friends from Ill Squared Research. We're going to put Jill back on to the stage, get some of her thoughts on the bombshell from Dr. Joseph. Actually, I should say countless bombshells. I tried to count them all up. I'm going to have to go back on there again. But see, get you off mute. Howdy, Jill.
There you go. Can you hear me?
I can hear you now. So,
Nice. Yeah, that's wild.
so how many oh my gods and bam, good for you, RJ, did you get out of that? I lost count, and there were more. I had it edited. We probably had about just under 2 hours worth of discussion, but it, you know, got to put it in the right format. But he probably gave about twice as many kicks in the privates before I edited it. But there's only so many kicks I can put in. But I wouldn't say he's pissed off. He has a very good sense of humor about it. I don't know, just give me your thoughts overall. You know, nothing special. Just what you thought. And folks out there watching, feel free to post comments, and then we're going to go back at some of the footage and analyze.
I loved it. It was great. It was awesome. He said the words that I loved hearing.
Yeah.
Seriously though, like, yeah, I feel like they weren't even kicks in the balls, like an intentional, forceful nudge. multiple times over and over again to get the point across.
Okay.
Loved
All
it.
right.
He had a point though. I like he's very adamant about how grateful he is for, like kind of like their loss, his gain. If they're not going to pay attention, he's going to pay attention. And he's going to let everybody else pay attention. Love that.
Pull him back up for just a sec. Bear with me, Jill.
Okay.
See if we can do this. No, can we do that? Yeah, there we are. And I'll pull up a few things while you and I are talking. So, did you have any thoughts or impressions, Jill, or anybody watching right now, any of our viewers on the Hannibal TV about? Well, geez, that's awfully old. That's from the 70s, nothing new here. Because I got to tell you, it was a great reminder to me that the potential for life on Mars back then and now. Like mushrooms, those don't die easy unless you get a slingshot in your backyard and you're shooting them like my older brother and I used to do. And the moon for that matter, one of our favorite viewers, Paul Reckless, was asking about that. And at one point in the interview, RJ did say he would not be surprised if when they did samples on the moon that they found some sort of bacteria. So I don't know, any thoughts on that, Jill, or anyone else about the things that are on Mars that not only RJ but Rudy Schild and of course Gil Levin, who unfortunately passed away a few years ago. He was one of the pioneers who his labeled release experiment. That's a fancy name for the experiment he came up with to determine, the basics of it. Does life exist on there? And he kept on pushing to the day that he passed away, unfortunately. And so does Dr. Joseph, and so do a lot of people, because they're simply saying there's something to it. Why not have a look? How do you feel?
Well, I remember as a kid being super excited about those rocks that he was talking about where they found like the fossils and whatnot, and then later they went back on it. But like I know that sparked a lot of people's interests, and including mine. But like the whole biology of it, to me, you already know me, Jim. So like, but I love like the biology of it, and so like, this is definitely nice to me because it's like I can combine both astrobiology. It's like a pioneering field right now. So I thought that was interesting. I also like that he's making a lot of people not feel crazy by talking about like, yeah, no, these pictures are real and you're not just seeing things, and then talking about the actual like the data of it. I like that he's bringing that together because they're like you were talking about before with all the stigma. It's like you can know something, right? But like, unless people have a reason to believe you, like you need to come with all the receipts, you need all your sources, you need evidence. You might as well just bring the alien with you or something like in your back seat, because people won't believe you. And there are people who have looked through this at home and been like, I've been saying that for years, and it's just really nice that we're all talking about it. So I definitely just want to say that for sure.
Yeah. Did you we were talking a little bit so is this similar to what you're talking about when you were growing up and the possibility of bones on Mars?
Yeah, like I think there was like this big story about it was like a meteorite they found, and it had like fossils from Mars or something.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, I heard about that from Dr. Rudy. I'm not sure if it's the same thing or not. And Joe, what do you make of this little bugger here? Gil Levin unfortunately passed away. The one who invented the search for life experiment back on Viking, was adamant that this could very well be a being about yay big, and RJ said so. I think Dr. Rudy Schild was also on that particular paper with him. What do you think? You think it's a coincidence? RJ does not, because in the same vicinity of what looks like a small body with the skull, sort of like, I don't know if you call them bundled up or just fossilized or what, but with arms and what looks to be 2 feet on the bottom, kind of like a classic little Martian guy, for example, but who knows? And then in the same area, the crash spot, there's pieces of what look like, just based on the shape, maybe a smashed in half craft, bones. I don't know. What do you think? Does that look like anything to you? Or do you think we're all just imagining it? And you can be honest. If you disagree, that's fine.
No, I mean, I definitely see something, and I would probably need to like see the source or like their analysis more. But like, uh, the bones kind of throws me off a little bit. But something like that, I mean, it could also just be like wreckage of a site, like a,
Yeah.
can't think of the word right now, where you go and you look at old civilizations and stuff. So maybe if not evidence of a body, it'd still be evidence of something they built, like a statue or something. But I don't really know much about enough about that particular photo. But yeah, no, I definitely see.
Oh,
I,
it's
I
new to
mean, I
me
see it, and
too.
I know like
Yeah.
everybody loves to scream pareidolia, but like,
Yeah.
I mean, we evolved it
It's
for
well,
a
it's what.
reason, and there is,
Yeah.
case by case sorting through. You have to just go through everything and assess it. Like, okay, I don't know, not just write everything off as pareidolia or write it off as correct because NASA lies about everything. So this must be true because they said it wasn't. That's not true either. You just need
That's a very
to,
good word, pareidolia. I'm trying to think. There was a famous ufologist that just used that word a few days ago, and that's exactly what he was saying. People write it off as. So compliments to you. I got to add that to my vocabulary list that I missed out on in the 12th grade. But compliments there. Or Bill O'Reilly would say, "Word for the day, pareidolia." And so anyhow, folks, we can see the square, the white square in the middle where it says Pahrump Hills, and so Gil Levin and his colleagues back in the day were saying that all those objects, bones, what looked to be broken objects and so forth, possibly a burial site, was all in that one area. Um, so looking at that, RJ was saying, "Hey, there's something to it," and I would agree. At the very least, look at it. Here's what do you think about this? Nothing to see here, folks, because while you're watching these things zip around on the thermosphere, which is at the verge of outer space, I apologize, folks. I've plasmoided you to death. This is probably my fourth thing on the Hannibal TV about, hey, Chris, about plasmoids, but nonetheless, this is from Dr. Joseph's famous video of recovered authentic NASA footage. The NASA logo is in there. If you go back and look at it, the focus has changed just as you see all these plasmoids moving around just on the verge of outer space. Jill, does that remind you of anything at all in your work? Any similarities?
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Um, for sure it does. I've definitely found it while doing research. I've observed things in the sky. So
Mm.
before, that's it's just this is crazy to me. I guess I'll just go into like my thoughts on this. It's just like, like kind of like when I met you, Jim,
Yeah.
like this is one of my first thoughts was kind of just like seeing certain things, observing certain things over time, and I came to the conclusion in my head that it was very like, I don't know, cellular. Like I saw the things in the sky doing these
Mhm.
movements that I call jellyfishing. And
Mhm.
I'm not gonna lie, I got chills watching um, Dr. Joseph's clip with like the narrations or whatever, just because I've seen it from the ground,
Yeah.
but I've never seen, I hadn't seen the footage. So it was just wild and very vindicating. And
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, no, I think it's wild. I have my own notes from the paper that, he wrote with Rudy Schild.
Yeah. Yep.
And I compared it to like a slime mold, but they were comparing it to algae, and it's just incredible. Like, I'm biased.
Mm.
Microbiology is my passion, so maybe that's why I saw that like really quickly, just kind of put it together. But it makes sense to me, and it also kind of validates some of the things I've seen through the telescope while observing those things too. So it's nice to have a NASA logo on that.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know why. And that's the fabulous Tedesco brothers, folks. I had the honor of speaking with them a couple times, and they'll tell you that Jamaric's obsessed with plasmoids. I don't know. Some things, maybe because it's electrical, and I'm an electrical engineer. I don't know. Just closing out. Yeah, Mike G with 4 6s. It is unfortunate with Mick Pope, Nick Pope. Go on to the Hannibal TV. At least his vertical channel, if not all of his media, talks about what happened to Nick Pope. But unfortunately, it is a loss. The guy is not only a legend, but also kind-hearted, good person. So a loss of anybody, even the loss of a schmuck, and trust me, folks, I know plenty of schmucks, but the loss of anybody is tragic. And we're going to have lots of good things to come, folks, over the next several weeks. And last but not least, Hannibal, I thank you kindly very much for having us tonight. We really do appreciate it. And it looks like that you've been out and about a little bit while you're healing up. So God bless. And we are signing off. Jill, thank you so much for your time. All right,
Thanks for
folks.
having me.
All righty. Till next time.